I get a lot of questions about starting a comic art collection on a shoestring budget. Prices are soaring. More collectors with deep pockets means breaking into the hobby on the cheap is getting harder and harder. But in watching the online auctions, I have noticed a group of characters that seem very undervalued. This is the story behind those characters and the art that brought them to life. This week, examining the legacy and the crash of CrossGen on Comics and Sketchy Collectors. Not long ago, I picked up this cover to Snake Plissken Chronicles from artist Tom Rodriguez at a comic show. I thought it was a pretty good deal at $350, until it sold for just $300 at an auction a few months later. So I started taking note of more CrossGen art after that, looking at why it wasn't achieving anywhere near the prices that some other pieces were. If you never heard of CrossGen Comics, here are the bullet points. The company was founded in 1998 by Mark Alessi. The tech millionaire opened a facility in Tampa, Florida, and offered comic artists and writers full-time jobs, with benefits and a pension. That was new ground for a business that treated most creators as independent contractors. The offer was attractive enough for veterans like George Perez, Jackson Geiss, and Steve Epting to sign on. And Alessi brought in up-and-comers also, like Steve McNiven, Jim Chung, and Joshua Middleton. But despite critical acclaim and valuable intellectual property with original titles like Scion, Ruse, and The Way of the Rat, just to name a few, CrossGen didn't capture the fan interest needed to compete with Marvel and DC. In 2003, the tech stocks Alessi depended on to make payroll tanked, and proposed film and television partnerships didn't materialize. The company went bankrupt, and in 2004, Disney purchased all CrossGen IP for just $1 million. The media and theme park empire paid $4 billion to buy Marvel Comics a few years later. Alessi returned to his career in tech before passing away in 2019 from a heart attack. He was just 65. Now that you know the history, let's talk about the art. Outside of the pieces produced in the CrossGen bullpen, which we'll get to, there were a couple of other ways Mark Alessi made a splash with art collectors and creators. First, free convention sketches. It may seem like a small thing, but if you were willing to wait in line, all the CrossGen artists would do free sketches for fans. I can still remember the artists flanked on all four sides around the massive CrossGen booth at MegaCon 2001, all wearing company t-shirts and jerseys. An artist suggested I pick one character and get all the guys to draw their version. For some reason, I picked Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Anyway, the free sketches were Mark Alessi's idea. Unlike most of the artists and writers in attendance, the CrossGen guys were salaried, so they were paid to be at the convention. Given that fact, Alessi thought a good way to build excitement and say thanks to fans was to offer them free sketches. Before joining CrossGen, George Perez was probably charging around $25 for the kinds of sketches he was now giving away. Also at the 2001 MegaCon, Alessi helped to organize the very first actor auction, which stands for a commitment to our roots. The money raised was used to pay medical bills and for other essential needs for struggling comic creators. The charity still exists today and is known as the Hero Initiative. Now getting back to the actual published art from CrossGen Comics, we can probably thank Brandon Peterson for the fact that all the CrossGen art didn't end up locked away in a vault somewhere. You see, Peterson was one of Alessi's first hires and became art director for the company. The publisher's view, much like Disney with its artists, was that as salaried employees, the pieces they produced belonged to CrossGen and shouldn't be returned to the pencilers and inkers. By this point, it had become industry standard to return pages to the freelance artists so they could keep, sell, donate, or dispose of it as they saw fit. Peterson argued with the publisher that failing to return the pages to their artists would be a hard pill to swallow for the creators, and could sow resentment. He also made the case that taking responsibility for the storage was an unnecessary expense. Alessi relented and opted to return art to his creators with the exception of a few key pieces deemed important to the company's archive. When the company was purchased, Disney returned those remaining pieces. Now many of these pages are on the open market, and not commanding anywhere near the prices that art from DC, Marvel, or even Image bring in. Just look at this Steve McNiven Meridian cover posted for sale on Comic Art Fans, priced at $500. If you click over to Essential Sequential, Steve McNiven's official dealer, you'll see his covers range in price from $1,600 to nearly $8,400. And look at some of the CrossGen highlights on Heritage. The archive shows the highest price ever achieved for a CrossGen piece was less than $5,300, but that was in 2017. If you look at 2020 sale prices for CrossGen covers, you can see they have really come back to earth. And if you're thinking, what's the catch? Why are so many collectors passing on CrossGen? Well, there's a reason for the higher demand you see from Marvel or DC. Collectors grew up with those characters. They're also more identifiable with non-comic fans thanks to their place in popular culture. CrossGen only produced comics for 5 years, so they never got a foothold like other companies. But a title doesn't need decades of readership for its art to become a popular investment. Enthusiasm created by film and television adaptations can set the market on fire. Just look at the prices art from The Walking Dead and The Boys are fetching. One thing to remember, all the CrossGen IP is still owned by Disney. CrossGen titles have already returned for limited runs under the Marvel banner, and with Disney Plus now online and competing for billions in streaming dollars, it seems like only a matter of time before the house that Mickey built takes another look at the CrossGen universe. So that's my take. CrossGen might be just the answer for new collectors wanting top talent work at bottom of the barrel prices. But act fast, before Disney realizes they might be sitting on a gold mine. Now I want to know what you think, so write something in the comments. What CrossGen artists do you think made the biggest career leaps since their days at the Tampa Upstart? Are there titles Disney or Marvel should give a second chance? Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Remember, don't break the bank, but you can't take it with you. Now have fun collecting.